Hello. Welcome to the Thinking About Computers podcast. Today we have our beautiful, amazing, competent guest, Shreya Shankar. Brilliant. She's a third year working with Aditya in EPIC Lab. She works broadly on developing tools to help ML engineers. She's also semi-Twitter famous, and she is also from Texas. So welcome on.
Thanks. Yeah. I would say I was Twitter famous before it became X, and I'm definitely not X famous.
You're not. You are X famous.
I'm X Twitter. Yeah, I don't pay enough to be famous on X.
So you don't pay for X?
No. Dang. It's kind of like.
Is that like a? Oh, I see.
It just feels like it's just we're in science. We shouldn't be like paying to be in science.
Yeah. Do you know anyone who pays for it?
Everyone with a blue check mark.
I think Joey pays for it.
Do people have blue check mark? I assumed no one paid for it, or like it was like I don't know, no one in my circles pays for it.
You may want to take a look at your lab mates' Twitters.
Oh,
hey, some shade.
No,
yeah,
I'm sure. I mean, they're mighty successful with their blue check marks. So maybe I'm just speaking from like a bitter perspective of like only 80 impressions on my post.
I see. What is this compared to before?
Well, they didn't broadcast impressions before, I think. Or maybe they did, I just never looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
But 80 certainly seems quite low.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you still tweet? I remember you...
I think sometimes I do.
Okay.
But I'm always kind of disillusioned at the end because it's like, I know no one's seeing this.
Mm-hmm.
So why?
Yeah.
All right. That's... I guess that...
So I've started tweeting less.
Interesting.
My feed feels very empty since the switch to X. Like, it's just like way less content. Like, so a lot of people left, and
yeah, maybe that's what it is. Like, there's also less content, so I'm less engaged, and everything's very clickbaity. Like, you can kind of like use a language model to like write every tweet that you see.
Well, I mean, they have grokking, right? Can't you actually use a language model now in Twitter somehow?
I'm sure if you pay, you can do everything.
Right.
All right, welcome to the pod.
Yet again.
Super welcome.
All right, so you're from Texas, specifically from College Station, correct?
Yeah.
As someone from Austin, all I know of College Station is it's where A&M is, right?
It is.
And it is mostly A&M.
It's mostly A&M and people who have farms.
And people who have farms. Are you...
There's quite a huge overlap.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Where did your family fall?
Definitely there's no farm.
No farm?
I know several people who have farms. One of my friends from high school had the best turkeys in the state of Texas for 2 years.
2 years. Okay.
I mean, not the other years.
Yeah.
Maybe he placed, but he didn't get the blue ribbon.
I see.
No, but my dad's like a professor right now, so that's why.
What?
In the business school.
Business school.
He's a marketing professor. So he writes his papers in Microsoft Word.
My mom also does this. She's in kinesiology. And yeah, I saw her. There was also one of my friends is an economics professor, and he writes it in Word. And I like hit me. I'm like, do people not do LaTeX? Like, is like the default Word? It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, and they edit each other's papers by reviewing in Microsoft Word. Like, it increases the margin, and you can see the comments, like Google Doc almost. And then they literally version their papers like V1, V2, V3.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Wait, are we the weird ones?
We are definitely the weird ones.
Oh,
with versioning built in.
Yeah.
Who else uses LaTeX? Like all the hard sciences, you think?
So my dad has equations in his paper, I assume, to like have some models of like marketing. Okay, that sounds really uninformed. I'm sorry.
This is wild.
But they're done in Word, in equation mode.
Huh. Right.
So, do you think your dad being a professor has influenced your career path?
I don't think so. I think business school people are really different.
Mm-hmm. How so?
It's very journal based is one thing. Another thing is it's like you think CS is tied to industry, and they're like they are the industry. I think in some way, like business school is industry. Like MBAs are the epitome of industry, I would imagine. There's like a lot of consulting that's like traditional consulting involved in it. Yeah. I don't know. It just felt very different. I never understood what he did growing up because he's like an academic. But I feel like with CS, there's so much. There's so like there can be a less applied focus if you would like for there to be.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also the case in marketing. I'm just super uninformed.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, like, my friend who's an economics professor at least seems to be much more, like, or I guess he's finance, seems to be more, like, on the academic side of things, but marketing, I don't know.
They're very
it'd be hard
different.
to,
Like
yeah.
a completely different economy.
Yeah.
Or ecosystem, not economy. And the other thing that's crazy is, like, my dad teaches MBA students. So, like, I think they're different to some extent. He teaches some PhD seminars too. But...
Does he have PhD students?
Yeah, he has PhD students, and almost all of them come directly from industry and have done an MBA before.
Oh.
It's like they've like made this mental switch to like be an academic after being in the industry.
Do you know if they just then immediately go back to industry?
Not always. I think some do, and like a lot of them just try to be professors. Like that's their reason for coming to PhDs.
I've met one business school PhD student in my entire life.
Really?
There are very few. There's so few of them.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like it doesn't make sense that much, right? Like, the whole point of an MBA, at least from what I understand, is it it's just networking for a couple of years, and like, I don't actually know what people with an MBA learn, like how to send email. Like, I remember in the Berkeley Business School. No, but like I had a friend who was in Haas, like the business school here, and she was telling me she was like double majoring in business and like some biology thing. And she was like, yeah, the way I like portion it is 3 Haas classes are 1 bio class. And I was like, what are Haas classes like? And she was like, I shit you not, Lisa. There's a class that's basically just how to write an email. Like,
wow.
Yeah.
It's an important skill. You're going to use that a lot. And
it's just true.
I don't think my dad teaches those classes.
Dang.
I would know. Like my dad.
I've had days where I did nothing but write emails in the industry. It's a very important skill.
I mean, also, as a PhD student, some days I do nothing but responding to emails.
Oh, I don't get that many emails as a PhD student.
I don't respond to them. I like wait for 3 months and then I'm like, oh my god, I'm so sorry I missed your message. Like had a lot of stuff. Like I had so many stuffs coming up. Just don't respond.
Yeah, it's weird. I check my email. Like how some people are addicted to Twitter or other social media, I'm addicted to my email. I check my email on average like every 10 minutes. Like whenever I open my phone, I'm checking my email. It's the first thing I do when I wake up.
What is like?
I don't know.
Dopamine are you getting from like physics building or something? Like I don't like.
Yeah, I don't. So that's the thing. Is like I don't know
what's happening.
Like I don't know what I'm expecting. I feel like it's not like I get a lot of like.
They're all listservs too, most of them.
Yeah, like I don't care about that. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what emails.
Your one college acceptance email is like kind of tainted the like remainder of your email checking.
Yeah, I guess. Just like or like, you know, like every once in a while someone will email you about your work and maybe I'm just always hoping.
You're looking for that. Maybe you have really good ratios for that.
I don't know. Someone
For
did
me,
just
like
email me.
listserv.
Really? Someone did just email me about one of my most recent papers. But it was one of those stressful ones where they're like, hey, I like looked at your weights and biases run and it's deleted, so I need the checkpoints. And also I had a question on this data set. Like, and I was like, oh shit. Like, all right, let me get back to you in like 2 to 5 business days because I don't even know if I have these checkpoints anymore. Like,
yeah, I'm so glad databases people are, they like read the paper and the like it ends there unless you're actively writing a paper on that.
They never email me. They're never like, "Wow, great paper," or like, "Wow."
Where's your way to buy it?
What's your thoughts on the database community?
I really like how broadly open-minded. I don't think everybody is open-minded in the database community, and I don't think they're always open-minded, but I think that they are the most open-minded in communities. I'm only like loosely involved in ML communities, HCI communities, and database community. And I feel like the database ones is like there are always people who will be excited about your work in the DB community. And you can almost always like figure out a nice data management story around contribution, like situated in existing literature. That I just feel like, with HCI, there's like a way to do things, which I've learned because I got my paper rejected because I didn't do it that way. And in ML, like you don't try to model or make a NeurIPS data sets and experiments benchmark whatever phrase that is used, then like your work doesn't get in there.
Yeah.
And I really like having broader or like not broad, like high variance in my contributions. Like I like some things to be algorithmic. I like some things to be user facing. I like some things to just purely be tools. Databases people are the only people who maybe they don't care enough. Like
I definitely feel that flexibility.
Yeah.
Like people say it's like a microcosm of computer science. You can kind of work on any area of computer science within the database community.
Yeah, I'm a bit jealous of the database community. Y'all sound pretty fun.
And monthly paper submission deadlines.
Yeah,
shout out to VLDB. I know a lot of people who submit to databases like just because of that. Like they're like, "Oh, I'm writing this paper. It's going to be like an STI paper, whatever." And it's like, "Oh, like missed that deadline." VLDB's every month. Like it's going to VLDB.
Damn.
I feel like also the contributions are appropriately sized in databases. It's not too small, and it's not like, here's a system I built 3 years building. It's not 3 years building. Like, it's very appropriately sized. It will definitely take you longer than 3 weeks. Otherwise, like, it's like...
Shots at ML.
I don't know that many people who have 3-week ML projects, but...
I feel like I hear these stories all the time of, like, I had this thought in the shower, and, like, here's my NeurIPS paper.
I think that's the thing, like, you could do a... Like, I do know people who are like, oh, I wrote a paper in a week. I think my fastest turnaround time was, like, 6 weeks. But even
that's
then,
crazy
like,
to me.
But even then, it was, like, it wasn't really 6 weeks. It was, like, I was thinking about it. I was, like, kind of working on it very passively. And then, like, 6 weeks before, I'm like, okay, let me, like, actually set up these experiments and, like, actually spend most of my time on it. And then it was 6 weeks.
Okay. That's more than 6 weeks.
Yeah. What would you say your average idea conception to paper?
I mean, there's one paper that's been taking 2 years. Another one is gonna take at least 2 years. Yeah, so the average is probably gonna be like 1.5 years.
How do you know?
I don't know.
Are you like year 2 in? Like, how do you know it's gonna be 2 years?
I know where I'm at, and I know how much I have left to do, and I know like how much time I have to work on it. I don't know. I feel like also, whenever I do database contribution, I like know that there's a good amount of time system building that just takes a long time, and then I write a paper, and then that takes like maybe 1 or 2 months. With HCI contributions, I like spend too much time ideating, and then like all engineering is done in 1 week, and then all the user studies are done like in a few weeks.
Oh,
so
really?
It's like, yeah. For me, at least, this is my second time around doing this. I'm working on some deadline right now. We had the thought experiments for 6 months, and then it was like progress was made in every thought experiment, if that makes sense. And,
that's impressive.
Doc on doc.
Like you and your advisor talking about it, basically?
And collaborators for this project, like weekly meetings, or like I'm going to go and like implement this thing and see what people think, or like how do you implement like good design? I'm such a bad designer. I think like that's what I've learned from the PhD program. So you meet people who are really good designers, and you're like, okay, like this is clearly something you're born with, like
visual design, or
no, I think they know how to like design good tools and experiences for people who have problems that they struggle to articulate.
Yeah,
that's
like
It's magic. I don't know how to do it.
It's not magic, it's marketing. Maybe ask your dad.
Probably.
Um,
And I'm just sitting there in these meetings like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Okay, I'm gonna contribute. Okay, I'll write this thing in TypeScript. Like, I'll build this interface. Okay.
yeah.
I'm super curious about the HCI world. We just had Parker on a couple of days ago,
So great.
talking about like his HCI work with people in data journalism.
Yeah.
It was super interesting. He said he spent like his entire first year of his PhD just like doing user studies and like learning about the problems in the space. And
That's the right way to do user studies if you're doing open-ended things. Like the user study that I said is taking 2 weeks is a very closed-ended tiny tool that I'm working on that's probably not going to get accepted.
what does like a contribution often look like in the HCI academic space?
I think there's 2 types. One is we've done like a preliminary set of small interviews, but like identified this broader need and designed like a tool to answer these like 5 research questions. And then we've like had 20 people use this tool and we measured, how they used it. And then here are our answers to the research questions. Like that's like one flavor of Kai papers. And I feel like another one is like semi-structured interview study of like people and how they like practice with computers and like, being a thought leader on open areas. But that second part is like really, really hard to do well because I feel like the community is a little gatekeepy on, I think rightfully so. Like if you are trying to be a thought leader to some extent, writing that paper because you're doing these like very open-ended, semi-structured interviews. Yeah.
So, sorry, why do you think that they're gatekeepy?
Because if you kind of just like talk to people without like a good script and then you just like write what you think you learned from those interviews, it's very hand wavy.
Right.
Like there's a lot of theory and like grounded theory is like this scientific way of approaching these interview studies where you kind of start out interviewing people open-ended. And after every interview, you kind of like collect common themes, build some sort of knowledge graph, and you just keep doing you keep refining your question set and doing interviews until this knowledge graph stops changing. So like it's like, okay, this is like one rigorous way to uncover the field. And then you have to kind of show like validity on your sample. Like you didn't just talk to 18 like Joey's PhD students. You like have a diverse population, whatever it is. So I think it's like pretty hard to do that right if you want to. And they look for that in the methods. And the other thing I think is interesting about HCI is they're very good at related work. Like related work is very involved in those papers. They're serving anything that's like tangentially related. Like related work sections are often pages long.
Wow.
3 pages, 4 pages. So if you don't situate your findings in the context of this like very extensive related work, you need to like situate like what's similar. Like we corroborated this study and this study and this study, and then we like found this new thing, and then we also found this thing that contradicts with this other study. Like it has to be positioned in the literature. It's stuff.
Is it a pretty friendly version of related work or like a combative one?
I think it's really friendly. I think database is the combative one.
The most combative I've seen is PL, like way more than databases.
PL just sounds like a battlefield.
It's I don't know. There's like some really strong lines of that sort of vibe, I feel like, in that community, but then also like a lot of like the sweetest people and like super like mentoring oriented and like, really focused on like inclusiveness and like helping new students, like but then like really hardcore kind of like we're fighting modes as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've always been mystified by the PL community ever since Alvin's PL class.
Oh,
Dish, what's up with Alvin's PL class?
Oh, I mean, it's fine. I just like really had no idea what's going on the whole time. I think that was me.
It was a lot more slides full of symbols than I was expecting.
Yeah,
that was also my first PL class.
I'm very bad at converting symbols PL symbols specifically. I think math symbols that with math that I was trained in, I get it, it's fine. PL is like different life for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then like it's just not the way that I thought about programming ever, because it's not the way that I was taught it or ever did it as an engineer. So like that's like another beast.
Yeah. I felt very similar in the 3D vision class, even though I work in computer vision. You would think 3D would not be much of a leap, but then they were talking about like, you know, how do you like estimate the like, you know, you have viewpoints here, here, and here. Like, how do you estimate the viewpoint from here? Like, there's all these freaking formulas, and like geometry plays a part somehow.
Geometry is like forming all of, I don't know, pre-20. What I learned in college.
This is also what I learned as someone who's TAing computer vision. Is we like release our whole like first homework, and then all the students are coming up asking these questions about perspective projections and like homographies, and I'm like, oh,
computer vision's about vibes.
Exactly. I don't know what y'all are doing. Just grab PyTorch, Hugging Face, just get going. Yeah, but speaking on industry, you worked in industry, right? You worked at a startup?
I worked at a startup.
And then I guess at like Facebook and...
Like, I worked, so I wouldn't, like Connor has worked in industry for many years. I worked in industry for 2 years full time, and then I also did part-time while I was in school. But I wouldn't say that like I am the most experienced industry person by any means.
Like, weren't you... Okay, maybe I'm wrong here, but I remember when we started, well, all of us started, you said that you were, like, you had worked at some startup, but you were, like, one of the first people at the startup or something. Yeah. And it seems like that experience has shaped quite a bit of what you do.
Definitely. I think that the startup that I joined as the first like ML engineering person, and I felt like, you know, as a developer or programmer, the ecosystem was not mature enough for me to make substantial contributions to building ML related software compared to traditional software. Because I'd done software engineering internships, I'd done part-time software engineering before, and it's just really different to do ML engineering. And for a long time, I was like, okay, maybe it's because data engineering sucks. Like, we know this, we've tried this out. I don't think that that's fully the case, even though a lot of database people always going to say this. And then I thought, like, okay, maybe it's just because models are, they're broken, you know, there's always bugs, so we just need to go and, like, fix all the bugs as quickly as we can, and then we'll have good software. But I think that's also wrong. ML is the only thing out there that just, like, makes incorrect software. And so the discipline is, how do you program incorrect software, knowing that it will give you value, but it's going to be incorrect. And I feel like that is a huge research question, actually, because no one's done it in, like, the way that big companies approach it is exactly this, like, minimizing bugs problem and trying to, you know, just be on call all the time. I don't think that's a scalable approach. I don't think, you know, writing SQL to the end of your days, like the data engineering side of things, is going to suddenly make better GPT. Like, it's not gonna happen. So I'm like really interested in, you know, like, what is the right way to empower people to build software that just doesn't work, and we know it doesn't work.
That sounds like a pretty hard problem.
So I'm in research.
Yeah. So have you made progress? Like, have we solved it?
No, not at all.
All right.
I think I've learned a lot in research, and I would hope that people reading my papers have learned a little bit. I think I needed to be in research to first, like, uncover that this was a widespread problem, or even articulate that a lot of the reasons ML engineering is so painful is because we're approaching the software building part incorrectly, or like we shouldn't be trying to make it like traditional software. So that was interesting. And I think now with the advent of LLMs, what it's really done is lower the barrier for building these AI and ML systems. So now you have people who are not trained programmers or traditional programmers. They don't know they've never used weights and biases in their life or whatever.
Mhm.
And now they are building systems and trying, like, at the scale of like a Google. They're trying to. That's what they want. They're raising tons and tons of money to do this. So how do you help these people?
How much in your research do you interact with people who are like in the Bay Area starting companies and stuff?
I think I try to quite a bit. My recent project around like custom kind of auto-generated evals or assertions for LLM pipelines was like pure just interacting with people who are building LLM pipelines, and seeing, you know, like where their pain points, like, oh, you don't know how to write evals. Okay, that makes sense. Turns out that also automatically writing evals is a really hard problem because you don't know if they're correct or not.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we solve that? Yeah, but I just think it's the one thing that I thought about going into research, or I thought in the beginning when I started my PhD, is like, I'm going to build things that are impactful from day one.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like too high a bar. I think like I'm going to build things that have like 10% chance of being impactful 5 years from now is a much easier thing to do. So that's how I feel about this like assertions work. Like it's not going to make people deploy LLM pipelines any easier tomorrow.
Yeah.
But hopefully in 5 years, we will have a better sense for how do you build evaluators that align with what the humans want.
Yeah.
Without model training, doing this for data pipelines. Like most LLM pipelines out there, the ones that stand to make a lot of money are replacing crowd workers.
Mhm.
But there's so much literature in crowdsourcing. One advisor did all of this, right? On how do you make these reliable? How can you trust them? How do you validate crowdsourced workers' outputs with other crowd workers? How do you do this in a cost-effective way? Like, I feel like it's just so experiencing again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I feel like in the last, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months, I've heard this like automatically generate eval, specifically automatically generate assert statements from like 4 different people, all at Berkeley.
Crazy. Yeah.
But and then a lot of it was just like,
yeah. I think with also doing that work, like you have to talk to people building these pipelines every day. Like that's what I did. And I don't even think I made something useful. I can't imagine if you weren't talking to people every day. How are you building something that's super useful? Yeah, I'm trying to work on a project now that's like, okay, let me go one step back and like be a little bit more abstract. Like, what are good programming frameworks for building ecosystems of LLM pipelines, like orchestrating updates, like stream processing, but now like with all your relational operators. Imagine there's like an LLM UDA and there's an LLM partition by. There's like, what does that mean? How do you orchestrate that and also optimize for that? So I'm quite happy with like, okay, hopefully nobody in industry is doing that. And maybe like I'm uniquely suited to help work on this problem because I'm sitting in Berkeley databases.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll have more success there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you in a year.
Yeah, go a direction, go away from immediately useful. Because that's all the industry people are going to work for that.
Yeah, also I just kind of grind like them, you know?
Yeah.
I just sometimes gotta give it up.
This is another question we wanted to ask. I feel like you live a very, like, different PhD life than I would say a lot of students, or like myself. And like you live in Pacifica.
I'm moving to Berkeley.
What? Wow, maybe this question's irrelevant.
Wow.
Next month.
What?
Yeah, what? I'm convincing my partner for months, and he is down.
Dude.
It's huge news.
Why don't you move to family housing?
No, it needs to be near a bar. That's it has to be like walking distance to a bar.
Yeah.
So we can bar.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Which I'll work with that.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw you this morning by Bart.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, your life is about to totally change, but at the moment, you're very much in level.
Right.
Berkeley, who I feel like our social world really revolves around the lab.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be able to participate.
Yeah, that's very exciting. But what's it like right now, living so far away, out in the woods with your dog?
I don't know. I feel like, okay, if you ask me 1 year before I moved to Pacifica, my life was also very different because I lived in a house with 13 people and they're great. They're some of my best friends. And I think like I actually really like living with people who are not, CS adjacent. I just think, I don't know, I like it.
You want diversity.
I don't know if it's like that I want diverse. Like there are plenty of diverse people in the lab also. I think it's just like I don't know. I enjoy talking to people about non-CS things, and I haven't had such a diversity of conversations in the lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bad thing.
Definitely trends towards CS related topics.
I think Pacifica is different. It's been a dream of mine to have a dog, and you just can't really have one in like this very large house in SF.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a puppy, so we needed.
So cute.
I know, I love him. He's so big now, though. Yeah, I just think like the third year of your PhD is like the right time to like do a life-changing event where you kind of can piece out a little bit from research.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
We need to start planning.
What's our big event?
Starting the podcast, a life-changing event.
That's true.
Yeah. Third year's not the only year. Like, I'm sure every year you could piece out too.
Yeah.
I think this is a slightly divisive topic among PhD students. A lot of people, for their perspective, like, oh, these sorts of things like need to,
or like large chance that you could, like whatever chance it is appropriate to your ambition.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's better to get a dog when you graduate. Like, I would not want a dog my first year as assistant professor.
We actually got direct advice from a professor who has kids now, and he's like, damn, wish I had kids in grad school.
Like,
I hear that a lot, actually.
Yeah. It just, like, if you're going to keep going down this route, your life is only going to get busier.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
I think it's interesting that in academia, there's these more, like, discrete times. Like, in industry, it's just like, I have a job. I'm working for a nebulous amount of time into the future.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I'll change jobs, but it's not like, oh, after this job is the right time to get a dog, And in school, it's like, oh, I'm doing my bachelor's degree like that right now. Like, after that, there's this like transition point, and I'll do this other thing. Like, then I'll do the PhD, and then there's this transition point. And so people kind of, naturally want to like put stuff off until after that. But it's weird. It's a really different way of kind of thinking about your life, I think, than in industry.
Well, I think I wonder if it's specific to like engineering or CS, because I don't think that's the case in other departments, other schools. Like in the business school, like people are like married when they come to their PhD, or like it's just it's like a job. It's part of their career. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're 21 years old and coming to a PhD.
Yeah, I feel like I remember I was at SOCC, and there was a like panel of professors that were giving just general advice to the students. Oh my gosh. And there was this one professor.
That's what they love to do.
Of course. They're advisors, Yeah, small tangent. But there are some advisors that are like so like really overcorrected for advising, to where like I'll say something, just like something that happened, and they'll start giving me advice. And I'm like, that I wasn't asking for advice. I was just telling you about something that happened.
Advising is like a great job to be in if you want to just give advice all day. Yeah, seriously. Like, it's advisors exist in every industry. Yeah. Somehow there are roles for it, like paid full time.
Yeah, I feel like
coaches.
I often have the equivalent of like, when you sometimes like you have a friend or like a partner where you're like venting and you have to be like, I'm not looking for advice right now. Like, sometimes it feels weird to go to my advisor and be like, I'm not looking for advice. But anyway, so they were giving advice on just how should you live your life, I guess, as a researcher. There was this one CMU professor who was like, hey, this is a job. This isn't your life. Treat this like a job, a 9 to 5, like...
And you will have fewer papers than everyone else, but that's somehow okay.
Yeah, maybe.
Good luck.
But I do feel like I definitely view a PhD much more like a job than I view it as like school. Like I definitely view it, I would say most similar to like working at a startup or something, where it's kind of expected that often like you're trying to build something you're really passionate about, maybe like work-life boundaries are questionable, but yeah, I don't know. I see it more as a job, but I like have worked in industry and that does feel very different. That does feel very much like the focus is not on my job. Whereas now the focus is very much on my job. Yeah.
I think of it sometimes as like we're all at this like we work. Like it's like this working space, right? We're surrounded by all these people who are like working towards very similar sorts of goals, interested in very similar things. We're all kind of like for the most part working on our own sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like we're all like, I don't know, like writers going and like working on our books every day or whatever. But like yeah, it's like a nice co-working space. But like if I don't like no one's telling me to go in, but if I don't go in, my book's not gonna get written.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Somehow if you don't like talk to everybody, then the book's not gonna get written. You don't show up, you don't write, you don't run the experiments.
Yeah. I don't know. I also feel like, at least compared to my industry experience, which was even more minimal, like less than a year, I feel like in the PhD, there's a lot more like work that I know I won't get any immediate, like a lot of work that I know will almost definitely be wasted. Or like a lot of like, planning like events or planning talks or attending talks and you're
wasted.
Like, it's not wasted, but it's like
I thought you were talking about like, I'm like actually like running these experiments and they fail, so they're wasted.
No, that's also
maybe I'm just doing too much of like
yeah
waste.
But I guess compared to like this hit me and this is something I realized when doing research in undergrad. Like I'm spending so much of my time just like listening to other people talk and like having random one-on-one meetings with people that don't really have like a super clear goal. Like it's just like, tell me about what you do. And it took me a while to like really see the value in that. I really felt like I was wasting a lot of my, like I could be coding. Like, what am I doing?
It's a very like long-term versus short-term value. Like all of these seminars, all of these like brainstorming sessions are not going to help me with anything I do in the next like 3 months.
Yeah.
They'll like give me ideas for that next thing way down the road or maybe not.
Yeah. I feel like everyone that I met, like probably like 2 of them have turned into collaboration, like small collaborations that could be fruitful. Like, don't know if they'll be paper or whatever. But it's like, wow, I've met hundreds of people.
Yeah. I've met so many people.
Like, I have to be okay with that rate in my head.
Yeah. So Stanford. You went to Stanford. Sorry for the abrupt topic change. What are your thoughts on Stanford?
As what?
Like
college? Like a place to watch football games? I was like, great place to watch football games and sports events in general. No, seriously.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I've never seen a Stanford sports game.
I tried to go to like as many like gymnastics. I went to field hockey.
Mm-hmm.
They're just so good. And like you just like because I didn't grow up going to a lot of like East Coast sporting events. So I just like didn't even know.
You went to Texas sporting events. That's like
it's just football.
Yeah, it is really.
It really is. Like when there's like basketball, I guess, and baseball, but nobody cares. But like,
yeah.
But it just like felt super cool to like be at a school where the team literally has Olympians and like it's a sport that I would never have dreamed of in my life. Great place to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess to be a bit more clear, I think a lot of people would consider Stanford to be like the top school. Like a lot of people's dream school is Stanford. Sure. And I imagine that there are a lot of people at Stanford who are at, the top of their whatever, or at least they think that they're at the top of their whatever. I guess in my mind, that sounds like a stressful environment with a lot of competing Like, I feel like that would foster a bit of a competitive
Yeah.
environment.
People are really competitive. So the thing that I don't like about Stanford is that not everybody, but a good number of people I'm interacted with are really, really competitive,
Mhm.
but they try so hard to act like they're not competitive.
Mhm.
Like, I almost wish that it was like, just don't try, you know, like,
Yeah.
like MIT famously is competitive, but they're not like pretending that they're not.
I'm out to get you.
But like at Stanford, it always felt like, oh my god, like you never know whether you're like talking to someone and like they're here to, like, you like don't know what anyone's intentions are,
Yeah.
which is super weird because I came to Berkeley and I kind of expected to have to get back into that mindset, but then I quickly realized that was not the case. But like, it's just you have to like train that out of your system. It's just so weird.
Mhm.
The thing that I think was the most different though was the wealth disparity.
Mhm.
Like, I have never been surrounded by so many rich children in my life because they're 18,
Mhm.
right? So it's like people like had all this like, I wouldn't say like access to like internships or whatever. Like, of course people have that, but like no, people owned like horses and brought them to Stanford. Like,
Damn.
like people like
That's Texas luxury.
no, bro, it's like this like level. Like, I knew like kids like whose parents were like famous, right? So it's like
Yeah.
they just like lived a different life, and yes, maybe they studied CS. Like Bill Gates' daughter studied CS,
Mhm.
and she's like there in the classes.
Mhm.
This is weird.
Yeah.
Be there, same thing. I remember like going to dining halls and seeing like Katie Ledecky because we shared the same dining hall.
Bruh, Katie Ledecky.
And I would
I've
just
met
be
her
like,
once.
this is super like trippy because like I don't know.
Yeah.
I took a writing class with 3 Olympic swimmers. Men's Olympics. Yeah, it was crazy. Actually, maybe 2. One of them went. I saw him in the Olympic trials on TV.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang. Who was it?
I don't know, some guy like
Yeah.
some one event. He was in lane 8. Like
Lane 8. Oof, that's a rough one.
No, but it's
Not a good lane.
Weird environment, I think. Where like you I just like have this feeling of like this isn't real life. Like,
Yeah, so
real life is not like you're like going and like seeing Katie Ledecky in the next table. Like, that's just not it.
do you feel like it was still pretty, like, I could imagine that those people live a somewhat like insulated life growing up. If you're, I don't know, growing up in such like a wealthy
yeah.
area. Do you think that Stanford sort of made it so that they kind of still lived in that bubble, or?
I think so. I think there's a lot of, I mean, some other Stanford people will say otherwise,
Sure.
but there's a lot of like small segregated groups within Stanford.
Mhm.
And I think it's because like just people try to find their community at like that young age. Yeah, but it was really weird for me because I felt like I didn't have. I have like 5 very close friends from college who are very similar to me, but I didn't have like student groups that I associated my identity with, or like sororities or frats or like things that I did. Like, I can't go to a reunion and like say that I know so many people
Mhm.
in a way that most of the like Stanfordy people can do that.
Mhm.
And I'm sad that I didn't do that. Oh
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
I could have invested, could have given me a fellowship. I don't know.
Do you feel like as a Berkeley undergrad, you would like go to a reunion and recognize a lot of people?
I would not go to a Berkeley reunion.
Would be caught dead at Berkeley.
Yeah, absolutely not.
That's so interesting. Like, I was in this conversation with some of my friends from college, and I like made this joke about like, oh, they're already asking us for donations for reunion this year. Like, haha, like who's gonna donate? And I should not have made that joke because people legitimately already donated.
Yeah. My dad donates to Penn, and I'm like,
You don't have money. I guess you have money, but like, I would never occur to me to donate my precious savings.
yeah.
God.
Yeah, I definitely didn't give Berkeley some of my wealth, my limited grad school wealth. But
So once you sell the startup, then you
yeah, you got to give that 1%. But yeah, no, Berkeley, it's like, it's so big. I don't even know, like, does Berkeley even have class reunions? Like, it seems weird to have a class reunion of a class size
it's an
of like
opportunity to fundraise.
tens of thousands of people.
How could they pass up on such a great opportunity?
Yeah, I guess they probably have it. But you keep up with 5 friends from undergrad. I keep up with like a generous 2. Aside from the people who are like in the PhD program now. But I was also not known for having friends in undergrad.
I think it's also like, I'm sure like when I move here things will be different. But like I didn't live here, so I like couldn't hang out with my PhD friends.
Yeah.
Couldn't hang out with you guys.
Yeah, I remember we hung out so like not so much, but we hung out when we started the PhD.
Yeah, I made such an effort to come here 4 times a week, and
that's right.
I'm like still catching up on like my sleep debt from then.
How often do you come in now?
2 to 3 times a week.
That's a really long commute.
Yeah. My mental health is down in the gutter.
I have a 15-minute drive, and I'm like 5 days a week is a lot of the commute like that. Like, I really,
Yeah, I can't wait to move. I was telling Aditya, like, guess what? I'm moving, like, because this is great news for you because I'm gonna be more productive. Like
he's like, shit, I have to come into my house.
No, he comes every day.
Yeah,
I think it's different. I think it's different. Like, have kids and like suddenly like the home is like not the best working environment anymore. Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah, I've never found home to be the best working environment. I guess I'm in the minority. But yeah, I could not.
Can I imagine if I had kids like?
Yeah, having kids and working
no way I would be working at home.
Sounds awful. Yeah.
At Microsoft, I used to feel like working from home was like the way to get all our work done. Like if I like really had a deadline or something, it's like, oh, I'll stay home today and like focus.
Get it done.
Yeah, but these days, I don't know. I feel like lab is productive. It's good. I'm on my just come into lab, work, go home, don't work.
That's good. I want to be there in that mindset.
Yeah, I think that's what I really. Maybe that's why I'm bad at working from home. I do really like the separation of like I'm working at work, and even at home if it's like, well, up until now it's like I don't have an extra room. I'm not a billionaire. So it's not like I have like a work office, right? It's like I'm working in my kitchen, with my roommates around, and like that just doesn't lead to like a conducive.
You're not gonna work.
Yeah, I'm not working.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the problem with research is that it's just way more emotional of a job. So when you have to lab every day, I have to like prepare myself a little bit for like, all right, the emotions I'm gonna feel today are like the meeting that's not going to be productive and I thought it would be, or like I'm going to think I'm going to get this done and I'm not going to get it done, and like I'm going to write this and realize I can't write it this way, so it's like demoralizing.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh god, I don't know if I'm like prepared to do that.
I find that like doing it in the lab softens it because like you're around your friends. Like
that's true.
Like I'm like
you can fail into the safety net.
Yeah. Like, oh, I really don't know how to write this section. But, like, this thing is really not working out, but we go hang out in the party cubicle. Chill.
Yeah. I mean, I like that, like, if you're really feeling down, like, talking, like, I found, like, one-off conversations with people, not like, hey, I really need emotional support, though I'm sure that they would be great at that, too. But, like, actually just talking about, like, I'm really stuck on this idea. Like, even if we don't fully come to a solution, I'm like, oh, like I'm actually forcing myself to actually think about this with minimal distraction. But I also feel like if you were to look at me throughout the day, you would see such a wide range of emotion that I don't see in other people. But
no, I think a lot of people in research are like super emotional, and it comes out in really weird ways.
Yeah.
I think you're very like exposed as a researcher. I think like there's no buffer. There's no like, oh, you're getting the paycheck either way or whatever. Like it's like if you don't have the good idea and execute on it, like there's no paper, there's no thesis, like there's nothing. So it's like like, yeah, every success or failure like carries a lot of weight.
Yeah. And also, like, it really kind of is all in your hands.
Yeah.
That, like, I think that's the hardest part of it. Like, I wish that, doing a PhD was more team oriented. And there are ways to make parts of it team oriented, but it's not team oriented fundamentally.
Right.
And it's not just PhD, like research in general.
Let me pitch you an idea for making research more team oriented.
Okay.
So I think one of the limitations to making research really team oriented is that papers like fundamentally kind of have a first author most of the time,
Mhm.
and like your thesis needs to be like your first author papers, and so like in
Sure.
order to get your PhD, you have
You gotta
done
do your
these things that
things.
you led or whatever. You were the person. So what if instead you have like a group that works on stuff and you randomize who is the first author on the different papers, and so your thesis is like the random subset of the things that you just flip the coin on.
This is assuming you have like good paper output then, right?
Like as a group, yeah.
Okay.
I think it sounds great in practice, but the problem is for papers, it is really skewed. Like, it's typically like just 1, 2, or 2 people, like really driving like 99% of it.
Yeah.
And like, I just don't know how you divide that better. I've not found a solution. I feel like it's just whenever I first author, like I'm really first authoring, like
Yeah.
it sucks.
Yeah, I guess I don't super view research as very, I mean, it is very individual in that I agree that like 1 to 2 people are doing 90% of the work. But at least for me, it's like you have 2 to 3 to 4 senior advisors, 1 to 3 grad students or undergrads. And then, maybe 20 other people that you just randomly talk to about it. So then it feels very like, I don't know, not necessarily this is a team effort. At the end of the day, I have to code it, I have to write it. But like,
It's a very interesting definition of team effort. Like,
I don't know, like, I guess
a team effort here is my GitHub and my weights and biases and my here's all the code I wrote.
Well, yeah,
here's
okay.
the paper.
Maybe this is the thing. I'm like quite a control freak, so this is an ideal outcome for me. In settings where it's like multiple of us are coding, multiple of us are writing, I get really stressed out because I'm like, no, this is all wrong. So maybe I am not a team player, but I like the illusion of being in a team.
Yeah. That's fun, yeah. You get to not be a team player, but you feel like a team player.
Yeah,
Wow.
I feel like it's great.
I'm not feeling like a team player and I'm not a team player. So maybe I just need to trick myself.
I think it like I don't know. I think it would be really fun to like all work together with like a bunch of your friends who are also like more senior in their PhDs and have like learned the ropes now. Like we like actually like can drive our own research on stuff. But like it's so hard to get a big chunk of time out of from a lot of PhD students. Like by the time that people get good enough at research or like do it on their own, now they like have picked their thesis direction and are going to go work on that stuff and like, can't be bothered.
Definitely. Yeah, the first like 2 years of my PhD, like I could not do anything. I was like kind of I just really was like throwing darts at a wall and like hoping and praying we got somewhere.
Are you serious? I feel like your first year of your PhD, I'm like, I've never met a more productive person in my life. This is ridiculous. Like,
no, it literally was all the papers, half of them got in, they were submitted like twice. So like already they failed so hard.
But there's one paper that's divisible by 2 is already very impressive.
Exactly.
But like also I think databases is not a system's contribution. Like you can write smaller DB papers for sure. Yeah, so now I feel more competent, but I could not be bothered to do things except it's just like it sounds great in theory, but I have so little time and like so many unfinished projects I just need to close.
Yep. The number of active projects I have only increases.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like, finally, when I close out a project, like then I'll have more time for my other stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, there's something.
Right.
It gets rejected. There's some other talk. There's some other extension. It's always something.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I'm still trying to figure out like what is the style of research that I even want to do, and I can't.
I like the mania style, where you're just super excited and like pretty productive, but like incredibly scatterbrained. Like I'm solving all of everything, and then followed by several weeks of just complete. I'm lost. I don't know what's happening, and then you somehow bring it home because you're like the deadline's a month away. I love this style.
Doesn't work in the VLDB model. I don't like have a deadline in my head of like gotta close it out.
See, I love deadlines.
You know, I think it would really help. I think databases like every month is like too chill for me because I have such long projects.
Yeah, you want like every 3 months?
Let's start with I like the Sigma thing. I love the every 3 months.
Yeah, I think I've done really well like picking deadlines. Like if I'm like October 1st is the deadline, like it is the deadline.
I see.
Yeah, which it can be really hard, especially with like getting all the collaborators on the same page. Like we are pretending that this is a real deadline. Like yes, we all know it could be November 1st or December 1st, but we all have to pretend. So like it's end all be all October 1st. But it's gone pretty well doing that.
That's good. I had a December 1st end all be all that became January 1st. Nice. And that was the worst decision of the PhD.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's brutal.
I was working all through winter break. Like,
right.
I haven't had a break since like last summer.
VLDB should just drop that one. There should not be a January 1st option.
Yeah,
if you're listening to VLDB,
yeah, you definitely are.
And then I was like, I could delay it to October 1st, but then I was like, but then I'm gonna have to go through all of this again,
right? In
January. And it's not like it's gonna be any better because like cider is happening and just like it's just a busy month anyways. And then I was like, yeah, I already just didn't book my ticket home. It's just me and Papaya, my dog, at home, and we're just writing this VLDB paper.
Yeah.
December 31st, there I was, listening to the fireworks and on my overleaf.
Crazy. That's so sad.
Partner went home.
Wow. So I have to go to my birthday party in.
It's your birthday?
It is my birthday.
Wait, today?
This is why we pull hats.
That's high-key embarrassing for me. I'm so sorry. Wait, happy birthday!
Oh,
wait, I like really thought it's like within your personality to bring birthday hats. So
that's
like on a random day.
Yes, this is correct.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Wow.
But I thought
record this on your birthday
because we love you so much, and I was like, what a great birthday gift.
Done so many other things. Wow.
It's hard to get studio time. It's hard to line up everyone's schedules.
Right, exactly. But
happy Pi Day.
Thank you. It is the best birthday. Pi Day, Albert Einstein's birthday.
Wow, I didn't know it was Albert Einstein's birthday. You would know if you had a birthday today. All the people who have birthday on your birthday.
Yeah. But I thought it would be fun to end the pod with your opinions on ChatGPT and education.
Yeah. So I think they should be allowed.
Yeah.
Everywhere, freely. Everyone should have access to a ChatGPT account as a student and like just design education around it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my hot take.
Damn.
The end. Everyone should have ChatGPT Pro as a student.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's like very in line with like, you know, you're teaching people to use tools to be better communicators and better thinkers. Like, why would you prevent people from using such a tool?
Yeah. I definitely tell my students in office hours, like, someone had a question in a lecture that I didn't watch, and I was like, let's ask ChatGPT and see if we can figure it out. Like,
you know what, ChatGPT right now, like, you know how Wikipedia was taught to us growing up as like never trust Wikipedia.
Yeah,
like
right.
I will take points off if you cite Wikipedia, and now it's like completely different, right? It's like, oh, like Wikipedia is like literally my ground source of truth.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if ChatGPT or like these chat interfaces are gonna be like that eventually.
Yeah. I know Berkeley is, I think it's fine to say. Like, I know Berkeley is trying to incorporate more like educating the professors about like you should really be trying out ChatGPT, like in a more of a positive way, not of like a like you should really look at this and see what it can do. Like it can do quite a lot of things. And I actually know someone who's a TA who made like a ChatGPT mod where so right now you can like create a chatbot where you can upload files and like when you ask questions it'll reference those files. So he'll like upload the homework and the lecture notes, and he has it automatically set up to where like a student will ask a question on Eduroam and then it will like ChatGPT will generate an answer, and then like I'm assuming there's some human moderation in there. I hope there is, but
I don't know. That's cool.
Yeah. So
yeah, I feel like also if machines can abundantly produce coherent text, it should really redefine, you know, what text we as humans write. It doesn't make sense for us to be writing 8-page 2-column papers anymore, or 12-page 2-column papers. Like if people are copy pasting from ChatGPT, we should start writing different.
The time to move away from the 12-page paper model was a long time ago, actually.
But now is a great time. Like, just figure out alternative modes of like communicating the same density of information. If people want to write papers, go for it. Like, just have less copy-pasted ChatGPT content. I don't know. It's such a failure mode of like, sorry, I'm like on this rant. It's such a failure mode of the receiving medium if copy-pasting is the best way to get there.
Nice. Well, as we end, do you have any parting advice, wisdom?
Lisa, for next year's person who records the podcast on March 14th, wish Lisa happy birthday.
Wow. Fantastic. That's great. Words of wisdom.
It's one thing I wish I knew before coming into this room.